more complicated than that. We have a constitutional system in which the Supreme Court is not a court of first resort. It's generally an appellate court and only rarely can be approached, when there's an actual dispute. So he can't go to the Supreme Court straight away just because he doesn't like what a state electoral administration has done. This level of defection from democratic norms by the President of the United States and all of the disinformation swirling around it is disheartening and worrisome. But I want your listeners to know that we've been prepared for it, and there's a huge infrastructure of civil society organizations drawing prestigious people from both parties that are urging calm and doing a variety of things to ensure that every vote will be counted. And I think it's that level of preparation that will help to get us through this.
You think no matter what the President says, every vote will be counted?
Yes, I think it's going to be challenging, and I think there are going to be multiple court challenges, but we still have relatively neutral and I think pretty impressively efficient electoral administration.
Can the U.S. democracy recover from this?
Of course, we can recover and we will recover, but it's unfortunate that we have an incumbent president who isn't committed to democratic values and the rule of law. I think that if he loses the election in the Electoral College, which is looking more likely than not, that his ambitions to remain in office anyway will be frustrated, but it's definitely a testing time for American democracy.
That's Larry Diamond, a senior fellow at the Hoover Institute in the United States. You're listening to AM and it's 22 minutes past 8. Wall Street surged on rising bets that Joe Biden might just scrape through to the White House, but that his Democratic Party may not win control of the US Senate. With the latest on the uncertainty, I spoke earlier with our senior business correspondent, Peter Ryan. Peter, good morning. What does the Wall Street rally tell us about this election, which is now really down the wire?
Well, good morning, Savra. This is all about grasping at any certainty. The main one is that Joe Biden might be on track to be the next US president, but that his power to make any significant changes is weakened because the Republicans look likely to retain control of the US Senate. That's put a rocket under US stocks and also around the world, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average up more than 3% at one point, or 700 points at one stage. That's because Joe Biden's plans to raise corporate taxes would probably be blocked in the Senate, along with his agenda of tightening regulation, and his big spending proposal to borrow more money for social programs might be derailed. The tech-heavy NASDAQ soared 4%. Joe Biden had been threatening to push up taxes on big tech and break up the market power of giants like Google. Economist Chris Lowe says Wall Street investors remain pretty nervous, but at the same time seem relieved.
It looks like it's divided government regardless of who takes the White House. That means a lot less probability of big sweeping legislative change, big sweeping spending or tax programs, and therefore a lot less uncertainty. I think the simplest way to think about it is that the government sort of lets business alone.
That's economist Chris Lowe. Peter, what does this all mean for Australia?
Well, it's still pretty blurry, Sabra, but the Wall Street rally looks set to be followed here. The Australian dollar is stronger after a weaker greenback, and the outlook here for better economic times. So more global money coming down under, taking the dollar as high as 71.9 US cents.
Peter Ryan reporting there. As Joe Biden pulls ahead in key states in the north, there's already plenty of soul searching underway after he failed to win over enough voters in crucial southern states. Grassroots campaigners in the Biden team accept they didn't focus enough on some Hispanic populations and other socially conservative voters who appear to be sticking with Mr. Trump. Gavin Coote reports.
Texas check!
Known as the Lone Star State, Texas was a state Democrats had been hoping they'd be able to turn blue. Ray Monis from the group Texas Students for Biden tapped into new media platforms like TikTok to engage young people.
Use the hashtag #TurnTexasBlue and show us how you're helping out to make this happen.
But not long after the vote count began, it was clear America's biggest red state would remain that way.
I was not as bullish as some people around me on the prospects of Texas going blue. What we saw in Texas and we saw in Florida is honestly a pretty historic realignment of Hispanic voters in the United States. And I get that they're not a monolithic group, but they just completely went for Trump in a way that no one, no pollster, no forecaster projected, and that made all of the difference in Texas.
Florida was also seen as a must-win state for Trump, and his supporters say a campaign focused on social and economic issues meant an early victory in this state wasn't all that surprising. Deborah Tamago is the president of the Florida Federation of Republican Women.
We are a very diverse state. We have many Latins and many other minorities that have come from countries that have been taken over by socialism, communism, tyranny. So that resonates well.
And it's that fear of socialism that Democrats agree Trump's campaign effectively tapped into.
And it's pure fear tactics. So I'm honestly not surprised he didn't win Florida. That's not a surprise to me. I know there's a lot of Trumpsters there. I have driven through Mississippi, Missouri, Alabama, where as a white male, but because I am gay, I feel uncomfortable. So that's one of these things where it's just I kind of knew this was coming.
That's Christopher Hardgrove, who's based in Philadelphia, the biggest city in the state of Pennsylvania, which remains right at the center of the election race.
I'm basically a Biden donor. And then just trying to talk to as many people as possible about the actual issues. So as soon as you leave Philadelphia, you just see more and more Trump signs. It's no longer a political party. At this point, it's a cult. If he can do no wrong and people are loving him regardless, that's a cult, and that's a problem.
Biden donor and campaigner Christopher Hardgrove ending Gavin Coote's report there. Usually, US expats and others with a strong interest in the election result get together at functions and parties around Australia to follow the coverage. But this time, amid the COVID pandemic, most events were cancelled or severely restricted. Some still went ahead though, and our reporter Nick Grimm went along to one event.
Can I ask you what you're thinking of the coverage so far?
You never know. Everything could change tomorrow with the postal ballot, so we're still keeping hope.
I think Trump's looking quite good at the moment.
You reckon that the trend is your friend today?
Yes, it is. And the party down there, the Trump supporters are pretty excited. It's probably not the result that anyone was expecting at the moment.
Now, the mood amongst Democrats watching the coverage has been, well, a little bit sombre, though their spirits did get a lift when Joe Biden himself went on American television to address his supporters.
Well, I'll tell you what, I know for certain that I'm very proud that Joe Biden just tried to get out ahead of this, because this is a marathon, not a sprint, and obviously a lot of absentee ballots are the ones still to be counted, most of which statistically are proven to be Democratic, right?
Do you think Donald Trump is doing better than many people expected?
I think he's doing better than I expected.
Now, the other election party just happening nearby has pitched itself as more of a bipartisan affair.
Oh, look, it's going to be tight. I'm hoping the best for America.
You're in a red shirt, and you've got a red Make America Great hat as well. I take it you're from a different perspective to your friend.
Look, I am, yeah. No, I'm a great fan of Donald Trump. I think he's achieved a lot in 4 years.
Meanwhile, Trump supporters like these I spoke to say they're feeling pretty pumped.
Well, you look at a lot of